It's a great honor to be here in the Zoom room with so many remarkable men and women. And despite your lovely introduction, I shouldn't be surprised if some people are thinking, what's this scoundrel doing here? He may be a UN advocate for the SDGs, but he's also the person who invented Mr. Bean and wrote Bridget Jones 2. So I'd like to start by obviously apologizing for those and saying that perhaps something we all share is dark secrets in our past and an intention to do better. And I do think that's the broad context for the meeting today. After the crisis of COVID, can we build back better? Can business help create the world imagined in the global goals, a world that rebuilds our environment, tackles climate change, inequality, injustice, and extreme poverty? And I think the thing we're really feeling is that at the moment there is a massive public appetite for change. We've seen it in the definitive rise of Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movements, but also I think in a real shift in public behavior, which is so crucial to this discussion. In my generation, people like me felt that the way you made a change was through giving to charity, and then by campaigning for governments to make epic changes themselves. But now suddenly, I think everyone is asking, what can I do in my own everyday behavior? So you see it in the choices that people are making about flying and travel, in the clothes that they wear and the food that they eat. And as you say, I'm particularly passionate about the issue of investment. That's why we're doing this Make My Money Matter campaign, which launches tomorrow and which is going to ask people and businesses to push for ethical and sustainable pensions, because our financial footprint is a key part of our carbon footprint, and people want pensions they can be proud of. But in the room today are the most powerful people and those most poised to lead the change. And what I would say is that one of the great and most welcome changes in my life is the extent to which businesses are taking up these big challenges. I remember in 2005, when we were doing the Make Poverty History campaign, we found it impossible really to get a meeting with any business people. And when we did, they were men in suits who thought that we were dangerous left-wing lunatics. But especially since the introduction of the SDGs, it really has all changed. I was at a meeting with the Secretary General who said, really it is to surprise that it was definitively true that businesses were taking the lead on the goals much more directly and consistently than governments. And we're at a moment when I would say that business leaders are the necessary heroes of the next 10 years, the sort of surprising superheroes, the people who will most turn aspiration into action. So I congratulate you all for being here. Thank you for all that you're doing. The age of companies focusing on very worthily but slightly marginal corporate social responsibility is gone. It's time for socially responsible corporations. And you have the power, you have the money, you control the jobs, you have much more ability to plan long-term than most governments. You engage directly with the public. You can make the big and bold determinations in all the key areas of diversity, equality, clean supply chains, the environment, and what we're focusing on particularly today, that one, the battle against climate change. I think one of the things about COVID, so many things will come of it, but I do think it's shown us in a way that the worst can happen. We've all felt what happens when things go seriously wrong fast. New York was taken over by coronavirus, and suddenly the possibility that global warming might cause flooding in major cities like New York seems much more possible. And so the world turns to you in business to take the mantle of responsibility. And there are a increasing number of businesses that are focusing on sustainable solutions succeeding. Many of you here today, you've seen the risks to your businesses, but also the opportunities, and the opportunities are immense. I was at the COP26 private finance meeting at the Guildhall earlier this year, and more than one, really a host of people, said that the rise of sustainability they were seeing as the greatest business opportunity since the Industrial Revolution. Now, obviously, COVID has thrown an epic spanner in the works. This is why COP has been delayed. But it just can't be an excuse for 5 years of recovery by reverting to the old ways. It has to be the moment for radical decisions, brave investments, bold new ideas like we're going to hear today. And they are tackling today two of the world's most pressing dangers. The first, the degraded environment and accelerating biodiversity loss. And the second, about climate, net carbon. Temperatures in the Arctic last week were nearly 40 degrees, and you are the key players in halving emissions by 2030 and getting to net zero by 2050. And that's why tomorrow Make My Money Matter will be calling on all pension funds to commit to net zero portfolios, investment portfolios that are made up of businesses like many of yours. We need political leaders and investors to insist on new standards to get there. We're expecting the public to demand it in their consumer choices. But most of all, we look to you, the UK's top business leaders, to make it happen fast, and to make it happen profitably so it succeeds. In their song, Light My Fire, the Doors once said the time for hesitation is through. But as usual, Shakespeare put it better, even though he is 455 years old. And this particular speech keeps coming to my mind. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves or lose our ventures. So today, I hope that all your ventures thrive, and you can all be those necessary heroes that the world now so passionately needs. Thank you very much.